fucking dope, dude.
While doing a Barrow's Reaper, I ended up having some bizarrely good luck. I ended up getting not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 drops in a row.
What the fuck, dude? Really?
I don't know how lucky this was, but I'm sure it's something probably absurd. We also got some subjugation gloves later on from Krill, which will make a nice addition to our magic gear. Since last time we got our Dragon Rider lance, a big goal going forward is getting our attack level to 85 so we can actually use it. At the time, I was a bit nervous about training my melee at 83, so over the next while, I made sure to do Slayer when I had the time to start leveling that attack up. Speaking of 83, I was in need of some more gold for my dailies, so it seemed like a great opportunity to level up my range some more while farming a bit of gold. After a while, we ended up hitting 75 range and I was able to start using Vanquish. In the end, I finished off getting level 80 ranged. Around this time was when construction contracts had come out, and I wanted to give them a try. Doing these contracts is pretty good XP and doesn't require a ton of resources, making it pretty nice for irons. There's also a cool outfit to unlock and a plank box for being able to hold extra planks in your inventory. To complete these, you talk to this guy in Falador who will give you a contract. Then you'll need to go to the location and fix the necessary things. The spots will involve planks and sometimes things like steel bars and candles. Once you've done a handful of these, it gets pretty easy to remember what sort of things you'll need for each location. After a while of doing Melee Slayer, I finally sucked it up and decided to do some Melee 83. This honestly wasn't nearly as bad as it seemed it would be. As long as you use your protection prayers and have a decent team to DPS the mobs, it shouldn't be too bad. Using things like Devotion can be very handy as well for minimizing the incoming damage. And the following day after some more grinding, we finally hit 85 attack. With the lance now being usable, the obvious thing to do was test this bad boy out at some God Wars Dungeon 2 solos, something that we weren't previously able to do very well. I started off by doing some Vindicta and was actually able to get some kills without it being too horrible now. We also had some fun and went and did an hour of Hellweir afterwards. This lance is really going to open up a ton of PVM content for us. In the aims of furthering our Slayer options, I wanted to unlock Cyrodiil next. We'll need to get access to the Ancient Key first, which has a couple of requirements. First thing we needed to complete was the Taibo and I Trio quest. This quest is a pretty long one and involves some really weird food items that you make, but it's pretty simple to complete overall. Completing this quest awards us with some fishing XP, but more importantly, allows us to finish the smithing part of Barbarian training, which is the next thing we need to complete. Completing the Barbarian training itself isn't very hard, except for one of the tasks. One of them requires you to kill mithril dragons for some chewed bones. If you're not a very high level, this can be a bit tough. Luckily, you don't actually have to complete this part of the training, you just have to start it to gain access to the cave. I wasn't feeling up to fighting these yet, so I decided to come back to this at a later time. The next day we ended up doing our first Twin Furies kills for our Reaper. Afterwards, it was time to start doing some Slayer tasks for Cyrodiil. We ended up getting a Desert Strikeworms task and got lucky with a focus sight on our very first task. And then the following day, I got a Jungle Strikeworms task, and got lucky again with not 1 but 2 Hex Crests on my first task. At this point on the account, I wanted to make unlocking more God Wars Dungeon 2 gear a priority. I was slowly getting my Herblore and Prayer level up to eventually be able to use the tier 95 curses and overloads, so we'd be able to start a Rexor eventually. Since getting the drops from God Wars Dungeon 2 could take a while, it made sense to me to start working on that now. And after a while we ended up getting our first drop, which was the Crest of Zamorak.
And a crest! Yo! Fuck yeah! That's fucking dope, dude!
This will be nice for making some decent ranged armor. In between all of the PVM, I was still making sure to work on some quests. The next one I decided to work on was Family Crest, so I could start storing my gold in the ore bank, and also for the awesome gauntlets. I'm going to be needing a lot of gold to go along with all the gems I've been mining for 80 crafting, so it makes sense to get these unlocked now. This is a pretty easy quest that only has a simple fight near the end. You have to hit Chronozon with each elemental blast spell to defeat him. After you've completed this quest, you need to go around to a couple different NPCs to unlock the special versions of the gauntlets. There are 3 types, but the main ones you'll be looking for is the smithing gauntlets, which lets you smelt bars directly into your ore bank instead of your inventory, and the cooking gauntlets, which will reduce your burn rate when cooking food. The next quest I was thinking about is the Curse of the Blackstone. The nice thing about this quest is it gives you a permanent 10% damage reduction when in any of the elite dungeons. This will be really handy for those 83 trash runs. In order to complete the quest, you have to complete each of the elite dungeons at least once in normal or story mode. I was nowhere near being able to do these normally yet, so I grabbed a couple friends and we went through each of the dungeons in story mode. Story mode is much easier than the normal version, so it wasn't too difficult to get these completed. I didn't end up going to complete the quest right away, but it was good to get this requirement out of the way. That evening I was working on the yak track at the time and needed to do some rune crafting. I knew that eventually I would want to start grinding out some Rune Pouches, so I figured it was a good time to get started on that. The Rune Pouch is an item that lets you hold multiple runes in a single inventory slot. To make these, you need to get abyssal threads, which you get by training rune crafting through the abyss. They're not super common, so you do need to do quite a lot of abyss rune crafting to make one pouch. They can be risky to do wilderness activities on a hardcore iron, but with a couple precautions, abyss rune crafting isn't too dangerous. The NPC you need to use to teleport isn't very far into the wilderness, so I just keep my Protect Mage up for the chance of blocking a tele block, and use my Bladed Dive to get to the NPC quickly, so I'm spending as little time in the wilderness as possible. It's also a good idea to be in a low population world, and if you see anyone that seems sketchy, just go to a different world. Another small suggestion if you're going to do wilderness content on a hardcore is to turn off your title, because some people might go out of their way to PK a hardcore if they see them going into the wilderness. In the end though, do these kinds of activities at your own risk. After completing my task, I had a handful of threads towards my first Rune Pouch. When running around doing my dailies, I ended up finding a kingly impling. I didn't have the hunter level to catch it, so I quickly ran to the hunter pool in Uglog for a boost. After catching the impling, I got a royal crown, which is now the newest addition to my character's silly outfit. I wanted to start seriously working on the 95 pro grind, since all of the God Wars Dungeon 2 I was doing was giving me lots of infernal ashes from Twins, and lots of dragon bones from Vindicta. I decided the first thing to get would be the first stage outfit from Ectofuntus. This is a really nice outfit for training prayer because it gives you an XP bonus and also has a chance to save bones and ashes when training on an altar. I'd recommend only training on Ectofuntus using ashes since you don't have to grind them using the extremely slow machine upstairs. Using the infernal ashes I had from Twins was perfect for grinding out the outfit. Once that was done, I took the time to finish getting 75 construction and built my Gilded Altar in my house. This will be ideal for using those dragon bones that I've collected. The grind to 95 prayer will be long, but it is very worth getting started on. Later on, when doing a bit of cooking, we ended up getting Ramsey the cooking pet. And then while doing some more Twin Furies, I ended up getting our next drop from God Wars Dungeon 2, a Blade of Namora. This is the main hand weapon for the dual-wield melee weapons from Twin Furies. We eventually went and beat Grigorovic for the first time as well, and now we've been able to defeat each of the God Wars Dungeon 2 bosses. Finishing up, we did a couple more quests, starting with Salt in the Wound. This is a pretty weird quest where you'll be controlling a few NPCs to complete various puzzles. I'd recommend referring to the wiki when doing these to save yourself a headache. Once the quest was complete, we gained a whole bunch of XP in Herblore, Summoning, Dungeoneering, Constitution, and Defense, making all of those annoying puzzles worth it. Then we completed bringing home the bacon, which is a funny and simple quest. When completed, you can now access the bacon food item, which is nice for making pork pies if you ever need a farming boost, as well as some decent pig familiars if you have a high enough summoning level. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know what you thought down in the comments below. I'd also love it for you to come and hang out with us on Twitch sometime under the same name as my YouTube channel, BreaCheese. A link to my stream and schedule will be down in the video description. Anyways, see you in the next one.